What's going on, guys? Glad you could come out and join me. We're here at Hammond, Louisiana, at the pilot. Today, I want to pick up where I left off a couple of weeks ago with my origin story, and I'm going to talk about the truck that I'm currently running, which is a F350 single rear wheel. I've got right at 60,000 miles on it. So I've spent some time behind the wheel. I'll be able to go over the pros and cons of running that setup and with this new trailer that I got. So like we left off, I just got back from Afghanistan in 2013. And I went back to the police department working my regular job. I was on day shift, It wasn't too far out of the normal from previously. But sorry about that. But so there's a couple of girls that I'd been dating a little bit off and on during that time, and I met my ex-wife. Which guys, looking back now after taking the red pill and organizing all that information, should have been a red flag. But she was married at the time. She told me they were separated and had been separated for a while, but later on I found out that may not have actually been true, because believe it or not, women will lie to you if it benefits them when it comes to living arrangements and shit like that. But so me and her started talking and dating a little bit, and we probably dated for a couple of months when her divorce was finally final. Then at that point I didn't have a problem making it publicly known that we were dating, and which everything was going really well. And then eventually she did move in with me in my apartment, and hindsight's 2020, but that was actually the best part of our relationship, was when she lived with me. And it stayed this way for a long time, like 6 months, 6 or 7 months or something like that, because we finished the lease out on my apartment. And they'll say women will act different when you start living with them, and that is true. She did start acting a little bit different. She wasn't really per se misbehaving like she was later on, but you could tell that she was definitely a lot more whiny and needy at that point. And intimacy was never withheld, despite that being a major flaw with living arrangements. And I kind of attribute that to the job that I did. I was a law enforcement officer, so I was very in control of the situations that I dealt with, and that just translated to the house. Like I didn't bitch out about everything. She lived in my frame, is what you could say. But after a while, we did get engaged, and then after the year was up on my apartment, we gave the lease up and moved into her house, because why would you have a lease and a mortgage? That doesn't make financially good sense. But it was actually a lot of good sense when you take into consideration a relationship. But hindsight's 2020, like I said. So the one thing that I noticed right away was when we moved into her house, she was very upfront with, "This is my house, not your house. You live here. This is my house." And it kind of, I should have took that to be not just a red flag, but a fucking flare, of things to come. But being being raised in the blue pill mindset. Hey, you got to get married, blah 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 blah, make the woman happy, whatever, whatever. Sorry, I've been driving all day, but I kind of took it with a grain of salt and carried on. We eventually, and where she was whiny and needy at my apartment, she gradually started becoming more confrontational and aggressive about various things, like that napkin doesn't go in that drawer, it goes in that drawer. The cookie jar goes over there in line with the other 3 cookie jars in ascending order by height. And we got into it one night over, I didn't mop with the grain of the fucking wood, the hardwood, so she was pissed about that. I told her, that's fucking stupid. If she was, that, that worried about it, she can do it her damn self. And so eventually, after we lived together for probably, engaged, living together in her house, we probably lived together for another 6 months. So we'd lived together for right at a year. No, it was closer to 2 years. We got married, and our marriage was almost 2 years. It was like 2.5 years. And like a lot of the content creators in the manosphere, they talk about death by 1,000 paper cuts. That's what happens, or what happened to me. Where I was at this certain level, being a single guy, like I was very financially stable, had my own place. I could buy whatever. Like I decided one day that I wanted a fucking Harley motorcycle, so I went and bought a fucking Harley motorcycle. After we got engaged, we bought a timeshare that was very financially taxing, and that was when and I got it because she liked to travel, and it was a good product, but a terrible fucking purchase, financially speaking. There are better options, but so as we stayed married, what gradually happened was somehow we managed to accumulate more and more and more debt and more bills, to the point to where, I was actually working 24 hours at a time at, bouncing between 2 and 3 different police departments, managing the business that I started during our marriage, and, going to the National Guard. But anyway, so, that happened, and as, we both began to work more to pay for these lifestyles that were obviously above what we were capable of supporting comfortably. She was getting more and more confrontational and more bitchy and more whiny, and instead of maintaining the frame, I was so tired. I finally got to the point where I was just like, shut the fuck up. Just shut up. Just whatever. Oh, you want, this or that, whatever. Just whatever. Shit, sorry, guys. It's been a long day. But the main things that I can take away from, the marriage is obviously don't have a joint account. That's a terrible idea. Don't live with her. She lives, if once you get to that point, don't move into wherever she previously lived. Make her sell or give up her lease and move in with you. And yeah, and make sure you maintain that frame. Like I said, you actually have to tell her no eventually, or otherwise, they turn into like spoiled children. Another thing that happened during our marriage was I started Privateer Solutions, a transportation company, because I had a buddy that asked, he told me about his hot shot business, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. How do you get into that? And he told me, buy a truck and trailer and lease it on. You'll get 75% of the money. You'll have to pay for fuel, you have to pay for your driver. And at the time, the market was really bull. Like, it was, if you couldn't make money at this time, you're a fucking retard. So that's what I ended up doing. Well, I should have just let that truck make the money that it made, because it did eventually. The transmission tore up on it, and instead of going right away and fixing the transmission and putting it right back out, we went and bought a new truck. We're like, well, it's doing good, it's making money, we'll have two trucks, we'll double our money. Well, one thing I've noticed with these little trucking companies that run primarily hot shots, at least in my area, and I've seen this happen with numerous companies, including my own, which I had to go back and restructure it. But they'll have a couple of trucks, they're doing really good, they're making good money. Well, then over a very short amount of time, they'll double their fleet numbers. Like where I think he had like, I don't know, like 11 or 12 trucks or something like that. He went to like fucking 30 or some shit. Just a huge number of trucks. And what ends up happening, it happens every time, that they are unable to keep drivers in those trucks, and then they are unable to keep the trucks loaded because there's just so many out there. And I've sit in the office and booked freight for my trucks. It can be a very, very difficult task to keep these trucks loaded with good paying freight. It's really difficult. So basically what happened is he ends up running only about half his total freight or half his total fleet, because either, I mean, they can't keep drivers in the trucks because for whatever reason, like this little niche industry has a huge turnover rate for drivers. I mean, I've had some. I was going back and sending out my W-2s, and some guys we only had work for us for like a week. Whatever reason, they think it's an awesome job. They'll get out there and realize that they don't like living the lifestyle, so they'll quit and want to come home. It's a pain in the fucking ass. It really is. So this was going on, and they restructured the way they did their payouts, and my truck was costing me more money. I was actually having to pay them so that they could use my truck to make money, and that's a terrible, terrible business model. So that's when I ended up getting my own motor carrier authority, and we started running R2 trucks, and that's where we're looking back on it now, guys. That's where we should have stayed at for a long time. And truth be known, I should have drove one truck myself. And that's what I tell guys now. If you want to start this business, you need to start with one single truck and drive it yourself for at least a year or two, and just pay off your equipment and pocket that money until you get comfortable enough that you think you could buy another truck and trailer and keep it loaded with a good driver. Yeah, so we rock on, and of course I'm spending every off day that I have at the business, and that also causes stress between me and my ex-wife, because women don't care about the process, they care about the end. Like, they don't care that you had to knock over 12 bottles at the fair to win the bear. They just care about the prize that you brought them. They don't appreciate the struggle, they appreciate the reward. That's it. So the struggle was causing me to spend more time at the business, obviously, because nobody's going to give the business the attention that I do. And that was very taxing on my time. So eventually I do hire a second fleet manager, and he came from the previous company that I was associated with, and he brought 5 trucks of his own. And, I trusted that he had, good sense. to be a fleet manager. Well, between my trust in a higher level employee, and I guess my lack of experience dealing with the industry, after about 6 or 7 months, that fucking exploded because he was more concerned about making money than operating the business legally and safely. And you have to find a balance in that, because if you don't, your business is going to just tear itself apart, and your overhead's going to quickly become so expensive to even do business that you won't be able to make profit. And I'll get into more of that on some future videos. But the last year of my marriage was the most critical. Like, she went back to, we were obviously working around the clock trying to make these, get all of our bills paid. So we weren't really spending much time with each other. And the people that she was around at work were extremely negative towards men. And in my opinion, the reason for this was because they were, most of them were, older women. And by older, I mean like 40 plus. They're past the epiphany phase. They rode the carousel through their prime and then woke up one day old, fat, single, with a house full of cats. And, they hate men because they're no longer desirable on the sexual marketplace. So that's all she heard all day. And then the other girl that was close to her age was a road whore, basically, that used her assets to gain more assets. If you see what if you smell what I'm cooking. So, and then she was becoming more confrontational about that. We started using fertility drugs to try to have children. And guys, let me tell you from experience, that shit is not worth it at all. It will make your wife or girlfriend at least 3 times more crazy. And if the first dose of drugs don't work, they'll double it, and that'll give you a 10x multiplier on the crazy, and it's not worth it. It is not worth it, guys. Don't do it. Just adopt a child. Just adopt a child, or get a pet. I can tell you firsthand. I remember one night we got into it because I wanted to go to the gym, and it ended with her screaming until she passed out after she tried to kill herself, because in her mind that meant that I wanted to leave her because she couldn't have kids. That's what this medicine will do to a woman. It is unreal. Not worth it at all. So, after that rocked on for a while, we ended up, separating and getting a divorce. And in the process of that, she went to a neighboring county and accused me of domestic violence and had me removed from the house with a protection from abuse order. Now, granted, according to Alabama, there has to be an actual crime take place. Like, there actually has to be a domestic crime take place. Like, we would actually have to fight, and one of us would actually have to be formally charged to get one of these. But because she went through the Safe Place representative, and they're all about that stuff, and went through a neighboring county instead of the one we lived in, she was able to get that shit skirted through the fucking court system, and that eventually ended up in a dismissal because she was texting some of my friends and co-workers that, she really wasn't scared of me. She just wanted to show me that I couldn't do whatever the fuck I wanted to. And, during all that's when our divorce was finally finalized. I learned a lot from that experience as far as, like, dealing with women on the long-term basis. And also that, to be honest, if you don't plan on having kids with a woman, it's really not worth the risk to yourself to to get the state involved in your relationship. And if she's really pushing for that, then you probably need to take that as a warning. Like, like for example, towards the end of our marriage, my ex-wife wanted to go back to school to be a nurse practitioner, which I was all for, 110% supportive of that. And she got to the point to where she was almost demanding, wanting my GI Bill to pay for her college, while at the same time threatening to divorce me if I didn't behave in a manner that she wanted me to, So it kindly, got to a point where I told her one night, I said, look, you threaten to divorce me almost daily. I'm not giving you my fucking educational benefits so you can divorce my ass and leave me with nothing. It's not going to happen. Period. And I told her, I said, if you can act like a real wife, I might consider giving you my GI Bill again. Which after that, she never asked me for it again, and we eventually did get a divorce. So that leads me to believe that she was planning her exit for a while, and was just trying to get everything that she could out of me while she still could. That's just seems to be how women operate nowadays. So after that, I pretty much been devoted fully to my business. I haven't really been policing a whole lot, just here and there. And yeah, I'll give more updates on that later on. For the second part, we're going to go over the F350. I had been traditionally running the Rams, and I had been doing a lot of reading on the Fords, and the dealership around my hometown. The Ford dealership's a lot easier to deal with. They're a lot more transparent on their pricing and stuff like that. So I decided to go with them. So I've got 60,000 miles on my truck. It's like 59,200 or something. It may be a little more than that. I don't know. It's right at 59 and some change. So one thing that I did notice right off the bat, if you swerve too much or veer back and forth in your lane, or if the roads are too rough, the truck will alert you that you're tired and fatigued and you need to pull over, which can be aggravating if you're going through Arizona on like I-40 when there's a bazillion potholes because it's constantly going off. It sounds like the seatbelt alarm. It also has the active cruise control with that automatic braking, which can be a pain in the ass because if somebody slows down to merge into a different lane or like get onto an exit ramp, like red lights and shit start going off on the dash and alarms go off and the brake will the truck will automatically press the brake like pretty fucking hard. I've actually locked up trailers because the truck thought that somebody was like, it was an imminent crash. And it'll flash on the dash too, like imminent danger, some bullshit. The seats are very comfortable. My truck is currently the King Ranch trim level, so the seats are really comfortable. I love the heated seats. I never really was into that kind of stuff. And, I didn't use it for a while, but driving around through the winter, I was like, fuck it, I got it. I might as well use it. I'm paying for the shit. So that's super nice. Even if you wake up and you went to the gym the day before and you're sore, you can turn that on and it's really nice. Let's see. The GPS is terrible for what I'm doing because it doesn't consider that you got a 36-foot trailer with like 16,000 pounds on it. So I actually use a different device for my navigation. The back seat's pretty roomy. I took the bed frame and the bed out of my '01 Ram and put it in here. And believe it or not, guys, it's the same amount of room in that '01 Ram or Dodge as it is in this 18 Ford. The main difference is the doors and the way it's arranged. The biggest caveat to the Ford that I really love over like my 16 Ram and even the 98 and the '01 is how easy it is to do the maintenance on the truck. Changing the oil is super fucking easy. You can do everything from under the truck except add the oil to the motor. because Ford has put the oil filter right there in the open, right behind the passenger side tire, and then the drain plug is right next to it, so you can drain the oil and remove your oil filter at the same time. The only bad thing is because the oil filter is at the bottom of the motor, oil will pool on the top of that oil filter, so when you crack the seal, it'll drain out all over the oil filter. But you can drill you a couple holes in it and drain that oil filter out, and kind of curve that a little bit. The fuel filter swaps is super fucking easy too. All you need is one 8mm socket versus an inch and 8, you know, full size socket, and an oil filter wrench for the Ram. Like to change the under the hood filter on the Ford, you disconnect 3 snaps, pull the tubes off, and you just take your hand and twist the canister and pull it out, because it just sits right there on top of the motor. It's exposed. It's fully exposed. You just, like, it's a self-contained cartridge, but you remove the entire housing. The entire housing is disposable on the Ford, versus the fuel filter housing on the Ram is permanent, and you take the lid off with that 1 1/8" socket and remove the cardboard filter, and that's what you put back in it, which is a pain in the ass because you got to take the lid off. And me, since I'm like 5'7", I actually have to climb into the motor of the truck, and I'm down in there with a socket trying to open this housing. And the people that did the maintenance on it last decided that they probably put it on way too fucking tight. Now I'm having trouble getting that bitch off again. Whereas it's not a problem with the Ford. To change the one under the hood, all you need is your fucking paws, and you can do it. Maybe a screwdriver or a knife if one of the little snaps don't want to, is being a pain in the ass. Under the bed, it's a self-contained cartridge, and you just drain all the diesel fuel out. It's like maybe 2 liters or half a gallon of diesel fuel in there, and then you'll unscrew the screws and drop the base plate out, and it's just a big, looks almost like an air conditioner filter for your house, except it's about that big. I usually change mine about every 25,000. I think I actually went like 27,000 this last time, and it still had about an inch all the way across the top that was still clean on the filter. And it's just insanely easy. One thing that I don't like about the Ford is the auxiliary port on the trailer for like the breakaway cable, and if you have like a work lights or something, it has some kind of relay in it or some bullshit. Mine don't work. I don't know if it's a wiring issue with the Ford truck or if they're all like that. I've talked to some buddies and they don't seem to have the same problem I do. So it may just be an isolated incident with my truck. I like the short bed. I got the short bed version because I think it's I think long beds look stupid unless it's a dually, which I like the dually fenders and stuff bed on the Fords, because the Rams, it looks like a fat country girl, with big ass hips, whereas the Fords have all the hard lines and stuff like that. It's like more aesthetically pleasing, I guess you could say. I do like the new Longhorn interior though. That shit looks bad, but not enough that I would have to deal with crawling into the motor. Oh, and the oil filter location on the Cummins is, Jesus Christ, it's such a pain in the ass to get to. It's right in the middle of the motor on the passenger side, and my arms aren't really long enough to get to it from the top or the bottom, so I'm just kind of like doing this weird struggle shit, and it's just a pain in the ass, whereas the Power Stroke, it's just right there. As far as power goes, this truck has plenty of power. It's got the 355 gears, and like I I got a new trailer. I got this Load Max dual tandem. It's rated for 22.5 GVW. And I had a ball valve for a gas line. It weighed 16,000 pounds. And I hauled it from Birmingham, Alabama to El Paso, Texas, and had no problems at all. These trucks are workhorses. I do suggest, eventually you may want to just go ahead and get a dually 350 just for long-term growth, because 16,000 is about maximum of what I want to put on this truck because of the single. Not that I don't think that it'll pull it. I really believe the truck would pull more than that. But the problem you run into is your tires are not rated to handle that much weight. Like, if I wanted to up the payload more on my truck, what I would end up having to do would be to get like some 19.5-inch wheels and like some 16-ply tires. And I could probably get another, 2,000 pounds on the ball before, I started blowing tires out and shit. That's a big problem that I really don't want to have. So far, I've only had I haven't had any major issues with the DEF system. It has some weird tendencies every now and then. Like I noticed that sometimes when you get low on DEF and you fill it up, it takes it a while to move the gauge and for the truck to say, "Oh, hey, shit, my DEF tank's full now. I don't have to sit here and beep constantly." Sometimes I have to run over some potholes and shit to maybe get that floaty or whatever it is they use to move the valve up in place. So, but all in all, I really like the Ford. I'm probably not going to go back to the Ram unless it's just a super fucking good deal. Oh, and of course, when you delete a Ram, it sounds like a really fucking big Honda Civic. So there you go. Not really into that. I really miss the tow mirrors, though, on the Ram. I really like those a lot better than the tow mirrors on the Ford. But, you can't have everything. So that's going to be it, guys. If you guys have any questions or comments, give me, drop me leave me a comment, hit me up on Facebook. And, I also have Instagram now. I believe it's just my name, Jesse McKinney. And I put a link down below if you have some really specific questions or you want to have a long-term discussion on, the transportation industry. Send me $50 and we'll get that scheduled. Also, I got the link to the RobinHood app. If you decide you want to start investing, you'll click that link, and me and you both will get a free stock. So that'll be it for tonight, guys. You guys take it easy and keep those wheels moving. her divorce was finally final, you know, then at that point I didn't have a problem, you know, making it public